So Allah also says, وَمَا اخْتَلَفْتُمْ فِيهِ مِنْ شَيْءٍ فَحُكْمُهُ إِلَى اللَّهِ. So whatever you have ikhtilaf, Allah says, whatever you have any difference of opinion, then his ruling in anything, fi shay, in the Sharia, in any issue, then you have to go back. Then the hukum, the ruling goes back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay? And so then the Shaykh, he went on to say, وَلَا يَضُرُّ مَنْ عَرَفَ الْحُكْمَ الشَّرْعِ وَقَالَ بِهِ مَنْ خَلَفَهُ مِنْ أَهْلِ الْعِلْمِ. So he said, and it does not harm him. It doesn't harm anyone who knows the Islamic regulation. Now, what are we talking about? Focus on the language that is used here and the subject matter. He says, وَلَا يُضُرُّ مَنْ عَرَفَ حُكْمَ الشَّرْعِ وَعَمِلَ بِهِ. Also, مَنْ خَالَفَ مِنْ أَهْلِ الْعِلْمِ. It doesn't disturb him. It doesn't harm him. It doesn't belittle him or lessen him or hurt him in any way. The person who knows the Islamic ruling to something and he acts on that Islamic ruling from anybody else from Ahl al-Ilm. He's not talking about you and me. He's not talking about laymen, regular people. He's talking about from Ahl al-Ilm. So let's say some person, regular Joe Blow, learns the ruling from somebody and it's the right ruling and he acts upon it. And someone who has more knowledge than him, who doesn't know that ruling, says that's wrong, but he knows this is right. Doesn't hurt him to follow that ruling. Even if this other person disagrees with him and he's from Ahl al-Ilm, he's from the people of knowledge. Does that make sense? So if you're following some ruling that you learned with dalil, what was the first principle? Come on, talk to me. The dalil, you have to have the dalil. The second principle is that once you know the proof, and you know the Islamic ruling for that thing, someone can't come to you and say, yo man, that's wrong. Like somebody wrote me and said, I'm reading the Quran according to the way you were saying, the ways that we can read the recitation, reading fast with the Quran, tadwiran. And someone says that's wrong. So what? That don't harm you. That's shame on him. If it's something shameful, or that's his loss if he doesn't want to do it that way. We have to stop worrying about what everybody else say. Does everybody else really exist, or is it just me and my Lord? You understand what I mean by that? I mean, everybody else exists. I don't mean to play games. What I'm just saying is it really matter on the last day? On the last day, all that matters is what you did between you and your Lord. You're not going to ask about him. Right? And you're only going to be asking how you responded to him. Not what he did to you, but how did you respond when he did this to you? So, if you knew the ruling, then you do what you're supposed to do. And don't look sideways. Okay? So it says, وَلَا يَضُرُّ مَنْ عَرَفَ الْحُكْمَ الشَّرْعِيُّ وَقَالَ بِهِ. And he spoke on it. وَقَالَ بِهِ. And he teaches it. He said, this is the ruling. You hear what he said? وَقَالَ بِهِ. And he speaks on it. And he said that's the ruling. Anybody else from Ahl al-Ilm who disagrees with him, it doesn't harm him anything. So as we go through this class, and we start here, we're going to go through this class, and we're going to say some things that are Islamic rulings that we learned, that we know. And someone else is going to say, o, u, e. So what? Go ahead, u, e. You know, fatha, dhamma, kesra. It's not going to bother us, and we're not trying to be arrogant. But we are here to practice how to learn. Learning how to worship our Lord. It's a very serious thing. Fiqh deals with every aspect of your life. Your sleeping, your intercourse, your raising your child, everything. The most intimate affairs in your life, this is fiqh. And those that don't know it, you're losing out a lot. And you're following probably the ways of the kuffar. Because that's what's apparent. Now, he says, and it is established in the Sharia that whoever actually gets the judgment correct from those who are qualified to make ijtihad. Stop. What did we say? Qualified. Qualified to make ijtihad. That's why you find people, all these people, that's why you follow this madhab, people who are qualified. Who you know that's qualified to make ijtihad? Anybody live on your block? No. We don't know those cats. They don't live over here. Okay? So the people have agreed that Imam Abu Hanifa was qualified. Imam Malik was qualified. Imam Shafi'i was qualified. And Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal was qualified. And other than Awza'i and other people that came after them. But those are the main ones that people agree upon. And their books have been gone through with a fine-tooth comb and examined and investigated over the last at least 1,000 years. And their rulings have stood the test of time. And modern scholars who have reached the level of ijtihad have gone through their rulings and said, well, one or two things here and there are incorrect. No big deal, right? That's not taken away from them. So in following that, there's a lot of good. As long as you know what? The dalil. But we're going to get to the details of that. So it's established in the Sharia that whoever actually gets the judgment correct from those who are qualified to make ijtihad, and they make the decision, and they get a double reward. And if they get it wrong, then they only get what? One reward, and they lose the reward of getting it right. Okay? I had to translate everything. This particular text is referring to the judge when he's put in position. Okay, here, what I'm mentioning here is the hadith. I didn't want to mention the hadith in its longness because it's not what we need here. If I mention everything, we never get off page 1. So there has to be a level of trust between you and the teacher. Okay? Because I'm going to present the things that are at stairs. You can't teach your child how to drive just yet, can you? You can't teach him the issues of marriage and divorce. He's just a little boy or a little girl. There are certain things that you proceed with. Likewise, in your studies of fiqh, we have to proceed with things that are age appropriate, time appropriate. You understand? So when we have this attitude, this arrogant attitude that I need to know everything now tell me, Jack, this is wrong. This is wrong because you can't, like the guy said, you can't handle the truth. You don't know. You ain't got the time or the patience for it. So you have to build up to it by learning what are the rulings first and then moving from them. Okay? Does that make sense? And like I said, the fact that people are hasty, no, let's get to this, let's get to that, shows that you need to slow down. Because if you knew certain things, then we wouldn't be in this situation that we are in now. There wouldn't be all this difference of opinion amongst the people if we just had some fundamentals understood. So it says here, it's obligatory on the people of knowledge. It's upon the people of knowledge. Now I'm mentioning some fundamentals here. We're going to get to the meanings of these things even in the fatwa of the ulama as we come past this. It's upon the people who have knowledge. And people who have knowledge here is a wide definition. There is qawsayn, there's parentheses here, which include the teachers who are not shuyukh. You understand that? It includes not the people who have the ability to do half of that. Because you have to do وَمِمَّا رَزَقْنَاهُمْ يُنْفِقُونَ. And from what they have been provided with, they spend. They do their effort. So if the person who's not a sheikh studied with a sheikh and learned how to make istinbat, he's not at the level of making ijtihad, but he's at the level to be able to read the readings of the writings of the shuyukh and determine from there what he's saying and which one is correct, then that's what he has to do. As opposed to the one who doesn't have that ability to pretend that he does, this is wrong. What he's have the obligation to do is to ask that one. And if each one would ask the next one, then we wouldn't have all these problems. Okay? So he has to badl wus'i fi ma'rifat al-haqq wal-bidlili. He has to spend all his effort that he can do and in knowing and getting familiar with the truth with his dalil. وَلَا يَضُرُّ مَنْ أَصَابَ الْحَقَّ مَنْ خَالَفَهُ فِي ذَلِكَ. And it doesn't, again, he mentions again, and it doesn't harm anyone who gets it right, anybody else who opposes him in that thing. No, he mentions it twice. وَعَلَى كُلِّ وَاحِدٍ مِّنْ أَهْلِ الْعِلْمِ أَنْ يُحْسِنَ ظَنَّ بِأَخِيهِ. Whoa, now we get into the bad adab. Now we get into the internet. And the things that go on here. The Shaykh said, وَعَلَى كُلِّ وَاحِدٍ مِّنْ أَهْلِ الْعِلْمِ أَنْ يُحْسِنَ ظَنَّ بِأَخِيهِ. And it's upon everybody from the people of knowledge. That means you da'is, you imams, you tulab al-ilm, and everybody that follows them, and half the people that want to be associated with them. Everybody's talking this trash about this one. They hear one thing out of cat's mouth, they write, well, he's off it. All this talk about somebody's off it, somebody's on it. Nobody's on it like that. What's supposed to happen? What did Sheikh bin Baz say, rahimahullah? He says it's on every one of the people who are associated with knowledge to have good opinion and have a good attitude towards his brother. وَأَنْ يَحْمِلَهُ عَلَى أَحْسَنَ مُحَمِّلٍ. And he has to carry him. He has to consider what that person has done. Let's say you watch a class and you see a guy and he does a mistake. You have to carry that in the best way, in the most appropriate manner that you can. You can't just say that person is off it. He did like this. Oh, his pants was too long. No, that's a mistake. We're not saying that you say what's lawful is unlawful. I'm not saying that. But there's an adab. There's a way of approaching it. There's a way of approaching those brothers who raised up in the first generation of Islam in this country when no one was wearing kufis and no one was acting Muslim, and they said power to the people, and they was more Afrocentric. And the way of approaching those people who left that and came over here from their countries because they were refugees, there's a way of approaching them.